byproduct of it. All right, let me start getting people into the session. Cool, bunch of people joining in now. How we doing, team? Hope you're doing well out there.
Hi, everyone.
Let me just make sure this is recording, and then we'll kick off in just a second, guys. Hope you're all doing well. Okay, we've got it recorded. Make sure we don't get any feedback on the sound, and then we're good to go. All righty. Byproduct of it. Okay, all right, let me start getting sound off here. Okay, cool. All right, team. So we'll kick off with the nutrition talk today, and we're going to be focusing on protein. So protein can be a very challenging one for a lot of people. So on week 2 of the challenge, we get people to try and get 40% protein in their diet. So anyone who's done it before, like Aaron, for example, or Louise, you guys will know that 40% protein is pretty hard to get in. So it's a test. And what we're trying to do this week is kind of show you what the optimal levels are and show you how hard those optimal levels are. And then next week, we're going to readjust it. Okay, so if you can't actually get to that 40% protein level, that's okay. We're going to readjust it. Those are the optimal levels for burning fat fast and maintaining muscle while in a calorie deficit or building muscle if you're trying to increase. But it doesn't mean you have to do it forever. So it's a test. You don't have to do it ever. So Sarka's here today, and she is going to run us through sort of protein. She's going to be covering off like why we use protein, talking through the thermic effect of food, giving us some really good sources of protein as well, both animal and plant-based. Maybe tell us a little bit more about it from an amino acid perspective, the functions in the body, supplements we can use, and how protein can help muscle growth. And that's what we want, guys. We want nice, lean muscle. So there's less of a thermic effect on food. So, Sarka, I believe you got a bit of a presentation as well you want to run through today. Is that right?
I do. I have it here. I'll just see if I can the share screen.
If you hit the share screen button down the bottom, that should pop up there.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see your desktop now. Okay. So we've got access to all your private life and a few nice men you have.
I'm getting used to the whole technology when doing meetings online.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's start from the start. You can
perfect.
I should probably put this down. Oh yeah.
Questions, if you want to have questions as well, put them in the little chat bubble as well, guys, and we will we'll get them all answered for you as we go through the presentation or towards the end. So over to you.
Okay, so basically, so today, this week is your protein week. So I'm going to be going over. There we go. Sorry, there we go. So why we use protein in the diet. So protein is basically large complex molecules, and it plays many roles in the body. It's found in all body parts and in the tissues, and it is the building blocks of muscles, tendons, organs, skin, as well as enzyme, hormones, and neurotransmitters. I think that's something people kind of don't hear a lot. It has a really big role in neurotransmitters, so I'll go into it later, but because of this, it plays an important role in your mood. And so I'll firstly start off with the thermic effect of food. So thermic effect of food, you'll see it some places as TEF. So it's defined as the increase in metabolic rate after ingestion of a meal. It requires energy to break down food so we can absorb it and utilize it for the body. So the thermic effect of protein is the highest in comparison to fat and carbohydrates. So here I have protein uses 20 to 30% of its calories to be broken down, and then fat is less than 3% and carbohydrates is 5 to 10%. So if you think about it in a sense, if you have something that's 100, it's a pure protein and it's 100 calories worth of protein, 20 to 30 of these calories are going to be used to break down that food. Whereas if it's 100 calories of fat, it will only be 3 calories to break down that food, and then carbohydrates will be 5 to 10 calories. So that's a big thing. You could say if you're having the same amount of calories with a high fat diet or a high protein diet, you can kind of say you'll burn more calories with the protein. So that's why kind of a high protein diet. It's not the main reason why, but it is a reason why high protein diets are kind of recommended for people who want to burn a bit of fat. And then, so here are some sources of protein. So the main source of protein you guys probably hear of is like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy products. And then you can also get protein from like plant-based sources. So all vegetables have some amount of protein in them. And broccoli is something that's actually very high in protein. Legumes, beans especially, so like chickpeas, butter beans, kidney beans, black beans, nuts, seeds, grains. So a bowl of porridge, even like that by itself, just the oats has 7 to 8 grams of protein in it. And even other grains like quinoa, rice has good amount of protein. So yeah, you can get the proteins available in the diet. It's just kind of like looking out which foods are a bit higher in protein, and you can kind of, once you get some knowledge of which foods are higher in protein, you can build up slowly.
Can I throw an extra one in the list there that I think people
Yeah.
will be very fond of? So hands up who likes bread. There you go. Well, I'm going to put my hand up. I think we all do. Sourdough bread is actually really high in protein, and it's one of the easiest to digest in the body as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to replace your standard slice of White Brennan's bread with a sourdough bread, you can buy them in Lidl. You can get it like pre-packaged or to do fresh ones. It's got really high protein content. So in the morning time, I love to have some sourdough bread with maybe some scrambled eggs. And if I'm trying to increase my protein level in the scrambled eggs, what I'll do is one regular egg, and then I'll get, you can get cartons of egg whites to make your scrambled eggs. So it's lower in fat content because it's the egg white, higher in protein. And you're having eggs on toast, but it's all protein, baby. So there you go. I wanted to throw that one in there because people do love their bread, but think it's bad for them. So there you go.
And sourdough bread as well, just for people who find kind of maybe gluten hard to digest, it is, I think you said there, it's a lot easier to digest in comparison to that. I sometimes get a pain in my stomach if I have normal bread, but sourdough bread is completely fine for me anyway. So if anyone wants to try that. Next slide. So what is protein composed of? So protein is composed of amino acids. So these are organic compounds such as carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur. That's kind of something we don't need to know, but just I thought I'd throw it in there. But amino acids basically link together like beads on a string, which form long protein chains and fold into complex shapes. Amino acids are essentially the building blocks of protein. So amino acids make protein, and I'll go into now, and then it's the proteins that make muscles. So amino acids, there's 20 amino acids that the human body needs, and 11 of these are non-essential and 9 are essential. So non-essential means they're already made in the body, and essential means that we need to get them from our diet. So when a food contains all 9 essential amino acids, it's called a complete protein. So you might hear that sometimes, like an egg is a complete protein. And I think, I have here animal products are complete, but then plant-based sources of protein, it's kind of harder to come across. So like quinoa, buckwheat, hemp seed, blue-green algae, and soybeans. But it should also be noted that like the plant-based proteins, they mightn't be as high in protein as the animal sources. So you're still getting the amino acids, but maybe just not as much as the animal sources.
So if you're on let's say a vegan diet, for example, I know it's usually recommended to take additional supplementation to get the complete proteins. That's right, isn't it?
Sorry, what's that, Ronan? I think I missed that.
Sorry, if you're on a vegan diet, so you're not having any animal-based protein, it's generally recommended to take supplementation just to make sure you get the complete amino acids.
Yeah, because you want to, like, you can be, I think like a lot of people, I think protein's well known now that it's great for us to have, but I think people can, maybe if they're on a plant-based diet, they might focus on one food that they like that's high in protein. But if you're not getting that balance of amino acids, it can be a bit tricky. So yeah,
absolutely. So, but I know a lot of supplement places sell like brand chain amino acid supplements, but they're generally not considered great. You really got to check the labels on them. But having additional supplementation if you're vegan is definitely worthwhile. So worth noting that just in case anyone's gone more plant-based recently.
Yeah, definitely. So how much protein should we have? So Protein is a macronutrient, so that means it is required in large amounts for the body to function correctly. The RDA for protein is 0.8 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So where you kind of sit in between that, it kind of depends on your activity level, age, muscle mass, physique goals, and overall health. Some people do like to go over this as well. It kind of depends on yourself, what you think suits you and what you feel right doing, but it's just good that you're getting in that range, but your higher your activity level and muscle mass, kind of higher up you will go. So what is the function of protein? So it is known protein helps build muscle and maintain muscle, but other things is like it keeps you fuller for longer. So it does this by slowing down the hormone ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. And it also increases leptin and PYY, which are the satiety hormones. So overall, you're going to have, you're not going to feel as hungry, or there's some studies done that people who like increase their protein, they have less those thoughts about food or cravings because of this hormone balance. It also regulates blood sugar. So it does this by decreasing the rate that the body absorbs carbohydrates. So you're going to get that like steady level of energy throughout the day. And it increases your energy levels, so it takes longer than carbohydrates to break down in the body, providing a longer lasting energy source. So that kind of links in with the regulating your blood sugar levels. It helps you lose body fat due to the appetite suppressing effect and the ability to boost your metabolic rate. And as I said earlier, it will also help in boosting your mood. And it's because I don't know if you guys know this, but the amino acid tryptophan, it's actually really high in turkey. So if you kind of noticed after your Christmas dinner, if someone has a big amount of turkey or another food that's rich in tryptophan, they generally feel sleepy. And it's because it's crucial in creating the neurotransmitters serotonin and melatonin. So serotonin is kind of its key role is help regulate mood and happiness and feelings of well-being, and then melatonin kind of regulates the sleep-wake cycle. So that's why if you have that big turkey dinner, you might get a bit of a slump, as well as the amount you eat as well, of course.
Turkey dinner tonight.
Yes.
Here is a little test, and you guys should try. Okay, in terms of satiety levels. So people often tell us that they feel, like very hungry if they've reduced their calories. Now, usually it's because they've maybe gone a bit extreme on their calorie reduction, because they go on the calculator and they go, oh my God, I can lose half a kilo a week if I drop, 500 or 600 calories, which we don't advise. We say, like 100 to 300 sort of max calories per week. However, here's a little test I like to do. I like to eat different types of, let's say, carbohydrates. So let's say, for example, I have an apple one day, then I have a banana. And I see how long it takes me to get hungry. Generally, if I eat an apple, I'm hungry 20 to 25 minutes later. If I have a banana, it could be like an hour and a half to 2 hours later, or porridge, it could be 2.5 to 3 hours. So I say, okay, well, these carbs, and porridge, obviously, there's a bit of protein in there as well, it takes me longer. However, if I have scrambled eggs or a piece of meat, it can take 3 or 4 hours before I get hungry again. And this is a great way to curb those cravings that we have. Now, a lot of people eat out of habit and out of boredom. So you got to figure out, what it is. If you're eating out of boredom, you got to replace that with something else. So if you go, do you know what? I'm feeling hungry. I'm not actually hungry. It's just because I'm sitting at home watching Love Island, and I'm just a bit bored. Maybe break that up. Go for like a 10-minute walk around the block, or something, just to break it up. You go, I'm hungry, right? I need to break this cycle and get a habit. But do that little test. Try protein versus like carbs or fats, and see what makes you hungry, and then decide if that's a food you want to continue in your diet, or if it's going to give you the cravings. There you go. Back to you.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, you said about like just doing something that really breaks it up. Because I think I even saw somewhere a girl was saying, even if you jump up and down a few times, it's just breaking the cycle in your brain. But exactly as you said. So protein supplements. So I do some work for this company. It's called Ross Nutrition. So I just included a bit of information they have on their website there. But they're basically an Irish company, and they've been around for about 8 years now. But I personally didn't hear of them too much before I started working for them, but you can get their protein in Dunn's, or they have an online site, and I put a little discount code if anyone wants to use it. But they're great. I love their products. They sell supplements as well, but their protein's really good because they say they can actually link back to the protein, like what cow they got the milk from to use the protein. So they're a brand I truly would recommend to people. But yeah, if people don't really know too much about protein, or they're a bit kind of iffy about it, it's something that is a great way to get more protein in your diet. Personally, for me, I love using it in the morning in porridge or in a smoothie. It doesn't have to be in just a bit of water in a shake. I think at first that's how they were promoted, but you can really make a lot. Like, I even like to make a little cake in the microwave with, like, I put some protein in, an egg, and mix it up, and it makes like a little cake. So it is really a great way to increase your protein. And then some other brands I like is Optimum Nutrition, My Protein, and Pulsin are great for people who are plant-based. They do like soy, pea. I think they do things that are like mixed as well, but yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, pea seems to be one of the easiest ones to digest from what I've heard. My little top tip, so I got it here, I just got some examples of food I have in my fridge. So I get like a portion of yogurt, and I'll get some frozen blueberries, and I'll put a scoop of protein, mix that all up. The frozen blueberries make it taste like ice cream, and it's just like delicious. It's like, let's say it's the end of the day and I want to have a treat after my dinner, and this is sort of my treat, so if it fits with like my calorie count or whatever, I'll stick that in, and it really does taste like ice cream once you get the frozen blueberries in. And I like to use the vanilla flavor. Just some people like chocolate, I go vanilla. There you go, top tip for a little extra protein in.
Yeah, you can get so creative with, like, you can even like, I cut up bananas before, and with that I mixed yogurt and protein together and dipped the bananas in it and put them in the freezer, and it's like ice cream pops as well. So yeah, it's just especially for dessert, you can make anything with protein. So how does protein help maintain the muscle? So like I said before, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and protein are the building blocks of muscle. So the human body is made up almost entirely of protein, excluding water and fat. And muscles are composed of about 80% of protein, excluding water, and is why it is especially important for athletes. So they're going to be burning they're burning so many calories a day, athletes. So they have to ensure they're keeping on top of their protein, so they're keeping their muscles nourished. And I think we touched on this in the last call, but muscles are more energy demanding than fat. So that's why if you're building muscle, you're hoping to maintain muscle, it's why you really have to ensure that you're getting the adequate amount of protein.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And I'll even just use myself as a personal example. So normally I would be lifting weights quite a lot, and I'd have more muscle mass on my body. So it would be very rare when I have more muscle mass that I put on much body fat. Now, over Christmas time, I would have taken a break, so I wasn't training as much. I was consuming more food, so I put on a bit of body fat, which is fine, because I was like, okay, I'm going to get back down and train at movements. I'll be lifting weights again. I'll increase my muscle mass. I'll burn off a bit of fat. However, I don't have access to weights at the moment, because all you guys have them. I gave them out to all the members, and the studios are closed. So my muscle mass has gone down, and my body fat has definitely increased. So I got a little bit of a spare tire going on here at the moment. We'll try and get rid of that. But that's because my muscle mass is down. Like, if I was to do my measurements of my chest, my biceps, my legs, etc., the muscle mass has gone down. However, I'm not worried about that, because I know all of this stuff we're talking about here, and I know in like 6-8 weeks I can get back to that sort of body shape that I want. I don't really care about my weight. Not too concerned about the body composition unless I go, significantly south on the body fat. But I can get back to that shape I like. So more muscle mass is good. That's why we want you lifting weights. And that's why we want you having protein, because it means the calories can go towards maintaining that muscle versus being stored as body fat. So yeah. It does happen to everyone. Wanted to point that one out.
So you do get a lot. I don't know what your opinion on this actually is, Ronan, but people do ask what's the best time to have protein, their protein, because I think it was seen a lot, like straight after you work out to have it straight away. But recent research I've seen says it doesn't matter too much when you have it, as long as you're getting it in during the day.
That seems to be the recent research. And to be honest, I've tried having it directly after. I've tried having it before. It honestly doesn't make a difference, is what I've noticed, provided people are getting in the required amounts of protein. Usually is like a daily amount. Calories is like you get your weekly calories right, but your daily protein close enough. That's generally going to be okay. The timing, like, okay, we're all have potential to be athletes because we've all got bodies that function and work, but we're not training for super high performance activities. So we don't need to have that strict regimented diet. So as long as you're getting the right amounts in, as Sarika pointed out, you're fine. That seems to be what the most up-to-date research says.
Yeah. One thing I would kind of say is in the morning though, and it's not necessarily because, like you said there, and like I said, it's like it will benefit you drastically, but it's just because in your sleep, that's when you tend to break down protein. So it's just if you get it, I personally find if I have a high protein breakfast, I have I don't get that big hunger crash in the middle of the day or at lunchtime. It kind of is that more steady release of blood sugar. And then just if you want to, like, if you're doing a workout straight away, your protein's there already, and it's just kind of more of a feeling. But like in terms of building muscle or anything, it's not too different.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll give a couple of just tips before we move on to that one. So for training and the times of day you're training, okay? So for me personally, somebody who's been training with weights since I was like 13 years old, I can go and do a decent session in the morning time without eating food. However, if I have some carbohydrates or instant energy before doing a heavier weight session in the morning, I'll perform better. I can definitely lift more weights. If I'm training in the evening time, I've generally had food anyway. So, I'll have energy. But if I do want to perform better, I might have an apple, half a banana, something like that, half an hour to 45 minutes before my session to get that energy from food. Because I'm using that instant energy from food for performance, okay? Yeah. That's worth noting. Now, the way you're talking about consuming protein is the correct way to do it. A lot of people ask me, like, what are the quick hacks to burn, body fat fast? And again, it's down to calories. It's always down to calories. So one method people talk about at the moment is intermittent fasting. So this is outside of protein. Now, all intermittent fasting is really skipping a meal, and that meal is usually breakfast. And people are saying, oh, it's changed my life, etc. They're just having fewer calories, and because they're not eating during the day. Little experiment, I've tried this a couple of times, is kind of like, the continental diet where you have you don't have breakfast, you just have a cup of coffee. Then you have a protein and based lunch, and then like a protein and carbs based dinner. That seems to be the do it here. I've noticed, I've tried this a couple of times, I'll burn body fat faster. The first 3 days, I find I'm hungry in the morning, but by day 4 of just having a coffee, I'm not hungry in the morning time. So this is the get rich quick scheme of burning body fat, but it's the same principles. If you look at intermittent fasting, they'll generally talk about it's calories when you look at it, and then higher protein. So it's the exact same thing we're talking about. You can just decide when you want to get your protein in throughout the day. So there you go. That's the hack. Be aware of those things. They're all based on the same principles that we're talking about here. Just package.
If you look at all the diets, I was saying this someone the other day, it is kind of a marketing technique. It's like a diet, but they change it. Some are very restrictive, but they changed it up slightly. But basically what they all are is reducing your calories, like heightening your protein, but
they're all based on the exact same principles. They're just packaged differently, and that's why we're just giving you all of the information so you understand it. But if you were to go to like Weight Watchers, for example, and obviously Weight Watchers have helped tens of thousands of people lose weight, but they don't teach you the principles. You know, I think they have stuff like sins or something like that. So like this is a sin and that is the sin. And it kind of demonizes certain food groups, which we don't want to do. You know, we want you to include the food groups you like, but we want you to understand the principles of building muscle and burning fat. And they're super simple. It's either a calorie deficit and high protein for burning fat, or a calorie surplus and high protein for building muscle. You got to throw your weights in there for either one of them to get those results. And there you go. That's why there's like 3 core pillars of the program. But cool, you've got a couple of breakfast ideas for us here, because I know a lot of people struggle with what should I eat. So here's a couple of ideas for you guys to think about.
Yeah, so just even I think just 2 of these kind of include, like, say, whey protein. But people kind of struggle to see, how will I get protein in my meals, especially if I'm not having any meat or if it's not a dinner. So I find like breakfast is kind of the easiest one. And you can have this like in the evening, a supper, a snack throughout the day. But yeah, even if you want to take a picture of this, go ahead. But these are just some of my favorite ones. The Nutella overnight oats, that's a very popular one. People tend to love that, especially using chocolate whey protein with hazelnut milk. It gives a really Nutella-y taste. But there you go. They all have over 30 grams of protein. But just an easy way to kind of, once you get some protein in the start of the day and you're like, okay, I got this amount in, I only have this much to go, especially this week when you're trying to heighten your protein. So where are we? Oh yeah, that's it. Any questions on that?
If there's any questions on protein, guys, shoot them in. So you can pop them in the chat box there or unmute yourself. But a couple of things I just want to cover off as well. And the first one is the importance of making mistakes when you're doing the 28-day transformation. So what I mean by that, I popped a video in the group earlier on. So the first week, most people make a mistake on their calories. They don't count their calories correctly, and then they get it right in the second week. Week number 2, most people make mistakes on protein. They're not getting enough protein. Maybe they're getting too much, or they don't know which sources, or they're having protein that doesn't agree with their bodies. So one of the side effects you'll have of protein, and you don't need to raise your hand for this one, but you might find you're getting a little bit gassy, a little bit more bloating. So be aware that it takes time to increase this. Like, I know the last time I did the 28-day challenge, I was hitting 35 to 40% protein for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and I stacked on a lot of muscle, but Jesus, the bloating in my stomach was really high, and you didn't want to be around me for 80% of the day. So be aware of that. That's okay. And that's why in week number 3 and 4, we reduce that back down, So what we're giving is the optimal ways to do stuff, but then you've got the more sustainable. And the more sustainable way is that 20 to 30% of protein in your diet going forward. So at the end of, and we'll talk about this in week 4, at the end of the 28 days, you might want to reset. So you'll recalculate your calories to see if you want to still stay in a deficit, or maybe you like the body shape, you want to go into maintenance, or you want to build some muscle, you might want to go into a surplus. But be aware that the 28 days is about making mistakes, okay? And you learn from the mistakes week by week. That's why we only give you one additional goal to achieve each week outside of the exercise. So make mistakes. And I've actually had a lot of people book in a one-on-one nutrition call, and it's cleared up quite a few questions. So if there's anyone who wants to do that, there's a link in the WhatsApp group to do it. Cool. Have we got any questions from anyone there, or are you guys like protein experts at this stage? We all good?
I've just a question, Ronan.
Yeah, fire ahead.
Okay, so if you stop doing weights, how long does it take for the muscle to turn back into fat?
Well, interesting question. Muscle and fat are 2 totally different things. So muscle doesn't turn into fat. All that will happen is you'll lose muscle mass. So your muscle mass will start to drop down to a certain point. The same as it does as we get older, except most people stop exercising as they get older, so their muscle mass decreases. However, if your muscle mass decreases, you require fewer calories. So if you require fewer calories because you have less muscle, but you're still eating the same amount that you're eating, let's say, during a challenge, or when you're on your maintenance weight, when you're training 3 or 4 times a week, those calories are going to get converted into fat, which is the body's natural way of storing fat. Now, remember, fat isn't a bad thing. Fat is designed for us to survive. Like if we think about, even just a couple of 100 years ago, summertime, the sun's out, there's fruit everywhere, there's new animals, there's more livestock to eat. We're eating that. We used to get fat during the summer, and so that we could survive during the winter because we had less to eat. There's oftentimes we, as humans would go days without eating food. We've just demonized fat at the moment. Fat is actually good to have in our body. It's when we get to that stage that we're obese that it becomes unhealthy. And that's what we've got to be aware of. But really good question, because people do have the perception that muscle turns into fat. Totally different components here. And so if you drop down, for example, let's say you're doing less weights training or less cardio training in general, go back into the calorie calculator and then put in, what you're doing from an activity level, and it will give you the amount of calories you require so that you don't start putting on body fat. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. There's another one here, I think, in the chat. Oh, no, it's just someone saying thanks very much. They have to shoot off. Cool. Anyone else got a question there? You guys are pros. Excellent. All right, look, we really appreciate you jumping in. I hope that was helpful for today. Like I said, if you need a call, jump in next week. Next week, we're going to look at, there's a couple of other elements I want to look at. We'll take a look at fats. We'll give you some small insights into some hormones as well. I don't usually cover off hormones in the 28-day program because people just get overwhelmed and it takes them away from the principles. So you don't need to know all about this, but we'll cover off a couple of those hormones as well. Right, guys, we'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you on class tonight at 6 o'clock. And if you do want to book a call, feel free to book in. Thanks again, Circa. Really appreciate that. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, team. Chat to you later. Bye.